Hello everyone. I haven't made a political comment in a long time, it seems like. Maybe I did with the video about the 5 men that were hunted and eventually killed. That was kind of a subtle political statement, I suppose. But watching this video with Ann Coulter and Hannity and Combs, and I forget who else was on there, some woman, but it was interesting that some words were mentioned that really struck me, and they would go, "You're not listening, Ann, you're not listening." And I think that's part of the problem here. There's a lot of people not listening, and that's evident in this country, it seems like, where they hear what they want to hear. They listen, they hear what they want to hear, and then they respond. I mean, there's a lot of knee-jerk stuff going on. There's a lot of people that are listening to somebody else, but they're only listening for those things that they want to come back at, that they want to attack. But nobody's listening. And I think the question that was put to Ann was, did George Bush flip-flop? Well, of course he did. An election was changed, or an election was held in November of 2006. That election changed the balance of power. Since it changed the balance of power, George Bush is now not in the same situation that he was in prior to that. So he flip-flops because there is a change of power. It's very obvious that is what happened. Now, as the Democrats or any of the other critics of Bush can easily attack that. Well, why did he flip-flop? They know why he flip-flopped. They just want to get him on it. And it's easy to do, you know. George Bush has always been an easy target. He's just always had, you know, his hoods called the Senate and the House behind him, and now he doesn't have that, you know. So now George is shaking in his cowboy boots. But on the other side, I was listening to Ann Coulter, and she asked a question. You know, why hasn't the United States been attacked? Or, since we're in Iraq, we're protecting the United States from being attacked. And there's always something that goes in the back of my mind, and it's, okay, let's think about how many times the United States has been attacked by Muslim extremists. I can only think of twice in the United States itself. And one that supposedly was stopped, possibly two, including the other one that was in New York a couple of years ago. And that was the man that was coming across the Canadian border in the northwest, and supposedly he was carrying explosives to explode a bomb at LAX on New Year's Eve 1999, before we flipped to 2000. The other time was 1993, when the World Trade Centers were bombed. And then, of course, the last being September 11th, 2001. Well, between 1993 and 2001, that's 8 years between attacks. So it's kind of easy to see that, no, we haven't been attacked since 2001. The probability was that we would not be attacked, because it just doesn't happen that often in the United States. And I know the retort to that is, well, if the next attack happens, it could be nuclear. It could be in the form of a briefcase. And that's how they lured the United States people into the war with Iraq, because they had nuclear weapons, and they had a connection to Al-Qaeda, and they will give Al-Qaeda those nuclear weapons, and they'll bring them in a briefcase, and the next one will be a mushroom cloud. That's so easy to put together, even though none of it was true. Saddam Hussein did not or was not in league with Osama bin Laden. In fact, I think the fact is that Osama bin Laden was also an enemy of Saddam Hussein. I mean, do we forget that he wanted to go in and take Saddam Hussein out of Kuwait? But instead, the Saudi royalty brought the United States in. Thus, Osama bin Laden, went on a holy jihad against the United States to get him out of Saudi Arabia. Get the United States out of Saudi Arabia. Are we out of Saudi Arabia? No. We're pretty permanently there. That's our best friend in the oil world. Saddam Hussein was not a good friend in the oil world. Iran is not a good friend in the oil world. So, what is happening here is easy to see if people will just listen to what's going on. And we need to do more of that. We need to listen. And then put the pieces together. It's very easy to put pieces together if you pay attention to the pieces, instead of simply listening for what you want to attack. And both sides do that. Both sides do. And if they would really listen to each other and, just see through the bullshit. I mean, just look through it and see what's real. 20,000 more troops in Iraq is not going to change the situation. There has been a proposal for what we need to do. In fact, it's a Senate resolution that's going to be voted on shortly. I'm not really sure if it was voted on today or not. But it pretty well lays out the ideas of the Congress, of this Congress, of the Democratic Congress, of how they feel. This will not be solved militarily. The military aggravates the situation. We're just pouring salt in the wound. We need a political and diplomatic solution. Politically, the leaders of Iraq have to solve the problem. They've said that themselves. Diplomatically, we need to work with the people of the region in a respectful and responsible way. It's simple to see the solution. If only people would listen to one another and stop quarreling. None of this is good for the United States. It's not good for Iraq. It's not good for the Middle East region. It's not good for the world. Yes, some say all of this is good for some people. And they point to Israel. I've always said the situation in Israel is the crux of the problem. And it doesn't matter which side you go on, if you're pro-Israeli or anti-Israeli. Pro-Palestinian, anti-Palestinian. That's where the deep problem is at. That's where we need to be. That's where diplomacy needs to happen. Anyway, I just wanted to get a couple of things about Iraq off my chest, just to get it out there. So, take care.